So, audience, this is Jesse Garcia. He is the Chief Strategy Officer of Adelante Healthcare. Jesse has come to some of our events, and I just wanted to have a short chat with you and ask you a couple of questions. So I thank you for making some time, Jesse. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I consider you a heart-based leader. So my question to you is, and I know that you're going to smile because you know that's so true about you, right?
True, yeah.
Where does that come from? Why do you think that is your default?
I think for me, it's important to find the humanity in everything. I think that people have a natural desire to want to give and to want to be their best. And most leaders and most people, I think in general in life, don't look to tap into that, don't provide opportunity for people to really, to really fulfill their own destiny or to fulfill their best abilities. And I've always found it really interesting that I, at some point in my life realized that I had a curiosity around understanding what makes people tick, what makes them who they are, and then really finding out more about ultimately, what they were capable of. So that curiosity for me really comes from the desire to find the humanity in everything, and I think, especially in people, and I think that it exists. I've been able to, as a leader, to work with a lot of individuals and hire people to really focus on a way to not necessarily just tell them what to do, but I think help them understand the work that they came to do at organizations I was with or wherever I was at, family or friends, but help them really to kind of get to a process to where they're empowered to make decisions, to do the work as they felt was, right. Because I think it's kind of strange when you have individuals and you're telling them what to do versus allowing them to really figure it out and help you make it better, from what they know. Because we each have our talents and we each have skills and we each have ability. And, for me I think the hard part is to really care about what people have to contribute and understand that.
So, couple of things I want to respond. I'm not sure you really answered the why, like where it comes from.
Okay.
Before you jump in and try to attempt to answer that. So, a lot of what you just shared with the audience was the basic tenets of servant leadership.
Yeah.
And what you're naturally doing, if I might kind of categorize it,
Yeah.
is you're leading by what I call agreements rather than expectations, because you're agreeing with them that you're a stakeholder in their success or their failure.
Yes.
And that you're going to take partial responsibility for whatever happens.
Yes.
So while there is supposedly an expectation, it really is more felt like an agreement because you are a part of the journey with them.
Yes.
So where did you learn that? Did you go to school for that?
No school. Honestly, I guess in answering that, it just goes back to my childhood, and I guess in the feeling of wanting to feel connected to something, wanting to feel, I don't know, I guess feel a part of something. I grew up with a single parent and my mom was always working. I had my sister, but she left the house by 17. So I kind of just really raised myself a lot. So I think trying to find connection with other people and really just trying to be a part of something. And maybe, inside of me, there's a part that speaks to wanting others to never feel like I felt. And instead of approaching it from a perspective of, well, I know you probably don't have this, or giving them my story, I really just try to address more of what, for me, what I think every human needs is connection. And then from there, making the agreements or simply just caring about their success in their life and, what they want to accomplish, I think in a way fulfills my ultimate probably need or kind of past desires to, at that time to, for somebody to want to try to get that from me.
I think how I'm going to play that back is you seek, look, we all have two lives. We have our jobs and we have our home life, right? But you seek meaning in everything you do.
I do, yes.
Whether it's away from home or it's home.
Yes.
You want there to be the same level of connection at home that you do at work.
Right.
And I totally get that. That is a servant leadership mindset. And it is absolutely statistically proven that servant-led companies outperform any other method or company, like by the factor of, I think, 4 or more. And it goes even much higher. And you're doing it naturally. Is there anything, Jesse, that you work on for you to practice being better at what you're doing and how you're doing it? Because how you do it is different, and it's wonderful. And people that work for servant leaders have better lives, are more productive, are happier. People are actually friends inside the office. So when you're working with somebody, you're actually helping out a friend rather than just somebody doing your job.
Right? I agree.
So how do you, if there's other future leaders out there, or there's other leaders watching this that want to adopt some of your style, like what are the things, do you actually practice? Because my saying is, if you're not practicing something, what are you getting good at, right?
Yes.
So, like, do you practice, or do you just rely on this innate ability?
And honestly, that's a great question. I've never thought about whether I practice the skill really. That is a great question. I feel like it's something that's definitely an innate ability. Given I truly just base it on the foundation of my life, on how I grew up and my desires as a kid, to try to understand the world. But so what I try to practice is human connection, and understanding and really being intuitive to people's needs and just what their desires are. And I think in general, in conversation or in connection, or in trying to build an agreement, whether at work or personally, to really pay attention to what somebody is potentially feeling, what is somebody potentially thinking. And it's not necessarily trying to be a mind reader, but just really being intuitive and really being connected to them in a way that they don't have to necessarily tell you what it is that they need or what they want, but that that if you feel that or you have a sense of it, that you care to ask or care to find out and care to support or, to help redirect or provide feedback. I think mostly what I try to practice as much, because I think I have an issue, just maybe talking too much, is listening. Ensuring that I am understanding what somebody, is telling me, because ultimately my goal is really to support and help. So I have to really try to understand, and then personally care about it and care about them in order to be able to really genuinely fulfill that. Because to me, being genuine, being sincere, authentic, being transparent, and being honest are really important. I'm sometimes a little too hard on myself because I tend to, to expect so much of myself. But I guess in practice, that's probably the things that I try to do, is to fulfill all of those. Because I feel if I'm being honest, if I'm being transparent, if I'm being authentic to myself and to the other person, then it builds the connection and the relationships, then leads to what you're talking about in organizations and personal relationships, to the realness of what is there. And then I think from that, you can really ask a lot, because people are willing to really accommodate, or they're willing to support, or they're willing to even feel empowered in asking questions, or even saying no to something. And I think it creates a really cool, balanced relationship. So,
Jesse,
it's like a natural human thing, I feel.
Jesse, I have been giving lectures. I've given 10 lectures over the course of the past 2.5 weeks on servant leadership. Hour and a half
Wow,
public
a
speaking
lot.
to C-level executives.
Mm.
Just in that 6-minute segment you just spoke, you hit almost all the tenets of servant leadership without you knowing it.
That's crazy. I know.
Transparency, seek to understand first. Um, um, uh, you touched on a few of them. And these are the basic tenets of servant leadership. People want to feel connected. You also said something really important. You're interested in knowing what they give a shit about, not just what the company gives a shit about.
Right.
Right? Because the company has core values, right? And every leader usually measures people's performance based on expectation, along with if they're adhering to the core values. What you're doing is you're saying, here's our core values, but I'm interested in knowing what yours are,
right,
and how we can make this all work between what we're doing here and what do you really care about. And you have such natural ability. What I would say to you is you probably could even, like, once you start discovering who you really are and what our
yeah,
strengths are,
right,
that's what we should be focused in our lives, right?
right.
I mean, if your business, if Adelante could talk to you and it was alive,
Yeah.
right? And now I'm Adelante, and I ask you this question, because I think I played this game with you before, right? I ask you this question, Jesse, when you're doing X over the course of a week, whatever that duty or task is, week after week, month after month, I get the absolute most out of you. That's the greatest gift you give me. I'm Adelante, right? That's your job to know what that is and focus on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And delegate as much as you possibly can.
Yes. That's
right.
Well, yeah. Because within the delegation, I think what happens is that I think within leaders, especially servant leaders, delegation is critical. Because I think sometimes I feel like it gets a bad rap because a lot of leaders that do it to simply not, to not, because they don't think the work is them to do. But for me, delegation, what that means is empowerment. It's giving people the ability to use their talents, their skills, and use their brain. I truly don't believe that people are always given the opportunity to be in a safe environment where they can, be empowered to make decisions or act on behalf of an organization, and at the same time potentially fail at something and feel safe about that. So for me, it's like, when you talk about, if Adelante was asking me or asking me that question, or asking me what's that thing, that I do on a weekly basis, it just made me think about it. Is the thing that I enjoy the most is the connection to our teams.
I'm not surprised that's your answer.
Yeah, but asking them to, but it really is about getting them to understand. It's like helping them to understand not just the work, but how the work, how they apply to the work, and how what they're doing is contributing to the bigger benefit of our work of serving patients, for example, at Adelante Healthcare. I think people want to understand, not only how their skill sets, how to best use their skill sets, but how the work that they're doing is contributing to that bigger picture. So for me, it's like, it's not just in the people connection, but creating connection for them to the purpose that we have. Because then that changes the work completely. It doesn't even feel like work. It feels like what you're really doing is that you're taking who you are as a person and the things that you know and the desires that you have to do this work or to help people, and you're putting it into action and you're seeing in those results. And that stuff is the most amazing thing. I've seen that happen so many times. I had a facilities manager who literally wanted to quit 3 months into his work because we were going through so much dramatic change. But it was so neat to give him this glimpse of how his strength to continue and persevere and let people know that what he was there to do was to support them and to help them and to let them know that his ultimate goal was to help them make their facilities better, he started to see that in the end, it wasn't about necessarily the toilet that he unclogged or the light bulb that he replaced. It's that he was connected to them, that he listened to them, is that he was was collaborating with them to it was a team effort to really ensure that the site was operational in a consistent manner. That it wasn't just about the light bulb, that it was really about fulfilling these needs and connecting each other to the purpose that they both have. Because one went in with one need and the other one went with another need, but when they understood that they have the same purpose together, it changed the way that he worked with our site administrators. And that stuff to me is literally the most amazing thing to watch until you see evolve in these individuals. And this person's relatively young, so there's a lot of things that then I have to manage with him outside of work that's attached to him as a person. But that even in itself is beautiful, because like he's a human being that isn't just learning how to do work, but he's learning how to be a human being and a person. It's so crazy.
Look, you are, to me, the prototype servant leader by default. It's your operating system. And I bet you the people there love being there, working with you, because you lift people up. And so I imagine Adelante, well, every company's going through some changes, but if Adelante is growing, you're always looking for good people.
Always.
And I imagine you interview them a little differently as well.
Very different. It's not even an interview. It's a conversation. It's these things, right? About how they do their work, how they approach their work, how they fail, how we communicate with each other, how they connect to the bigger picture, and then the transparency of, if you have feedback or if you don't like something, you have to speak up. You are in a safe environment to really help us through your talents and who you are to make this place better. It's not necessarily up to me. I'm a guide, but ultimately I'm really there to remove all the obstacles, as you know, in servant leadership, and to really open up the road for you to grow and to be amazing. That is my job. And I'm happy to say that, within the organization, I've always had incredibly high performing teams, individuals, I don't have a turnover really. And if people,
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I want to end on is, for some that are listening to this may sound woo-woo and nice. And for some people, it may sound weak, that it's actually weak to be this soft and this empathetic. But it couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually the greatest form of strength. And it is undeniable proof that companies who run from leaders like yourself become not only much more highly productive companies with less people, but it has a great impact on the bottom line. Have you ever looked at what you've done, the results of what you've done, and the efficiencies that maybe this has created inside your company? Or is it just how you've always done it and you really haven't thought through it that way?
I think I think most people would call it anecdotal, anecdotes, results or anecdotal results in the end. But I believe that I don't think that's the case. I think that, employee engagement, I think my teams typically tend to work in more areas than their own. So their scope of work tends to be, miles outside of the bounds of what they were hired to do. And it's not, and it's not done, with challenge for them. It's actually, they find it as a positive way to learn more. Our team, is known to always say yes and to always collaborate and want to support someone else and take that, or take the extra steps or go the extra mile to support anyone else in the department. A perfect example of that, is right now I ended up bringing someone in from one of our health centers. So I'm always looking to take people from internally and grow them into the organization. And
Servant leaders
hired, I'm sorry?
Servant leaders do that, yes.
it's key. It's key to it. And so this person is coming into a role that I developed. I call it a center support assistant role, and that's our corporate office. It's a receptionist slash admin assistant. But when she came in and I was talking to her, I told her, I said, I want you to know that, yes, there are these functions, transactional things that you'll be doing, but ultimately you are a leader. You're leading this office. And by leading the reception desk, by supporting, because she will then support the different departments through administrative work. And I said, you'll get to understand what the organization does. And at some point, you'll be able to see if there's anything that you find interesting or fascinating or curious about that you can, lead into. But what's so neat about it is what I've done with my teams is that they have a view of the organization that's broad, which then when it comes to supporting departments or helping or collaborating, they have little pieces of everything, and they may not necessarily be experts. But what it does, it gives them familiarity with things that allow them to support much quicker, because they have information, and then they're empowered to go get more or to implement solution or ideas, and that does something different to them. And so once they work within my department, everything moves a lot faster. So I created our call center back in the day, and it was the highest functioning it was, as far as speed of answer, number of calls they took, and they're great now. But it's, the energy is very different within it. And it's not to say that it's negative.
Call centers are tough, Jesse.
Yeah, but it's about how you connect to people and how they connect to the work and what they feel is important and purposeful. It's a very different feeling that, if you're coming to work to just, send out medical claims, it's one thing, but I always find a way to do that, to reconnect it for people, to where it's not just sending out a claim. It's you're really fulfilling something for the organization that's going to allow us to fulfill, more for people that we serve.
You are the example of exactly what I have been speaking about for 2.5 weeks. So I can't tell you how glad I am to have you there. If somebody wants to work for somebody like you, because never forget, Jesse, people want to be inspired. They want to be led by people that inspire them and make them feel good about themselves. Obviously, people know about you now. They know about Monte. People, I think, just from this interview alone would love to work for you. If people want to work for other servant leaders, do you know others like yourself that lead in a similar style? Do you guys hang out in certain places or go drink certain kinds of beer, or what do you guys like? If somebody is looking to work for somebody like you, what tips could you give them to really know that that's the person they really want to work with?
I mean, I think it's the same, the things that I said earlier. It's, you have to be ready to be transparent. You have to be ready to be authentically yourself, and know that it's, that there shouldn't be any fear to admit, failure. There should be no fear.
Feel safe, which is another huge.
Absolutely, feel absolutely safe. Understand that the questioning of your work isn't about, questioning of your character. It's, as in general, as a leader, we have the responsibility to ensure that the work is getting done. So it's kind of like like as a kid, when you get questioned by your parent if you're really doing something, and the kid typically automatically, because they sense, potentially getting into trouble, they lie, or they don't necessarily say that's what they're doing.
Right.
So for me, it's, it's understanding that those questions are really about working together to come to a solution or to help progress things. It's never about, disciplining or, creating a negative interaction. It really is about working together to get to a positive result.
You know what we should do, Jesse? I had an idea. Live and on camera, I have an idea.
Okay.
We should start an organization for other servant leaders to start talking about how they do things, to learn even how to hone our craft better as servant leaders.
I'm down with that.
Right? We should create something, because I I think there's a need for that, because if you're not practicing something, what are you getting good at? You want to keep getting better, right?
Right.
And for those that were listening, I think the answers that Jesse said were, if somebody's interviewing you on your character and the questions of how you would go about not solving a problem, but what journey would you take them on? Because when you narrow it down to a few candidates, I bet you, when you know this, that either of those candidates can get you to the finish line. The question is, how are they going to get you there? What journey are they going to take you on? Is it going to be a grind? Is it going to be miserable? Is it going to be joyful?
Yeah.
What is it going to be like? And when somebody's interviewing you that way, folks, the way Jesse just said, you're probably going to be winding up working for somebody you're going to want to work for. So when people actually question your character, they're not questioning it that they doubt it, but they want to know because it's important to them. And if they offer up their own kind of character, then you're probably in the midst of a situation that you should pay close attention to, be vulnerable to. If they're being vulnerable to you, be vulnerable back. So
That's so great, Andrew. That's such a great way to put it. You know, you made me think of in those interview moments and the conversations that I have, it's really about just being honest. You know, I break down the jobs how it is. I break down the culture. I really try to have an honest conversation about what the role is, everything, you know, the good, the bad, the potential. And it's important and I always look to see how that person is responding. If they feel, you know, defensive or threatened, obviously there's history in their life that, you know, that potentially has put them there. But there's individuals that respond with the same type of vulnerability and that to me makes me feel safe and makes me feel safe to the extent that I know that I can be vulnerable with them even in the feedback that I give them, and that ultimately at the core, that between us is the need of the organization and the need of the people that we're serving, and it's not our own ego or our own desires, because when you have that, and one thing that I always tell them is that I want somebody that's not going to focus on themselves. I will focus on you and I will help, you know, lift you up. Focus on the work and you will get to what you need to. Because ultimately, if you're doing the right thing and you're working towards that need, to the organizational need and the things that we're supposed to be doing, you're already gaining, you're learning, you're growing, because you will have the ownership and the empowerment to make it happen. So don't worry about, you know, climbing the ladder. Don't worry about salaries. Everything else comes with, you know, with doing the right thing. And
doing it the right way, and doing it with joy, and doing it with a certain type of attitude. No question about it. Jesse, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. You are a gem. You know, I know that you, in your universe, you don't view you as being special, but I guarantee you there's many people around you that do view you as being special.
Okay. I appreciate it.
And don't change for anything, for any money, for any paycheck. You just keep doing you.
Never about the money.
What I said, we should grab another drink and talk about the servant leadership group here.
I'm down.
Servant leaders group here in Phoenix. I wish you could see my presentation. It's something I'm really proud of, and for you, it would be like, yep.
Yes.
So, all right, one last thing. Tell the audience very quickly, for those that are not familiar with Adelante, give them a 60-second synopsis of the business, and then where you're at and where you think you're headed in the next few years.
So currently the organization is going through, it's kind of going through a renaissance. For the last 10 to 12 years, we've been growing and building capacity within our community health centers to allow.
There are centers there are clinics you can walk into.
Absolutely. So we are a fairly qualified community health center. We have 9 health centers throughout the Maricopa County, which is our service area, from Mesa all the way to Wickenburg, Gila Bend, and in between. We have 3 fully comprehensive sites, 40,000 square feet, one-stop shop. that we've built in this 10 to 12 year explosion of growth. And right now we're really trying, what we're trying to do is kind of solidify more of a foundation to then within the next 35 years build more off of that. So we've built capacity, we've built access. Now we need to build foundation to build programming and services on top of that. So it's a really exciting time for the organization to, in understanding how all that growth and all that evolution is going to then serve the population and the communities that we work within much better. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. We're finishing a strategic plan this year, and we're going to start developing our new one, which is basically like the new iteration, the new evolution of this organization, and it's fun.
Wow. Jesse, thanks so much. I mean, this
Thank
was a great talk. The world really needs to know that there are inspiring leaders out there. There are people looking to make a difference in other people's lives, not just their pocketbooks. And I know that's you, and that's why I wanted you as my guest, because I wanted people to know that there are people like you in the world that are doing good, one life at a time,
yes,
one task at a time. And Jesse, thanks so much. If people want to get in touch with you, they can find you in LinkedIn, Jesse Garcia in LinkedIn.
Yes.
So Jesse has a profile. If you have a question to him, reach out to him in LinkedIn, Jesse, Jesse Garcia in LinkedIn. Jesse, thank you so much.
Have a
great day. And we need to get that drink, because I'm serious. I think
I'm serious too. I love it, and I hope that we can make it happen.
Awesome. Have a great weekend.
You too. We'll see you.
All right. Bye.